conversations I feel people just don't have enough. Fertility out loud, and now we're talking about what it actually means to freeze your eggs. Full disclosure, for years I've thought people just kind of use that phrase, freeze your eggs, freeze your eggs. They don't tell you really what that entails. It is grueling. It can be painful. It is not as simple as it sounds. According to the Society of Assisted Reproductive Technology, the number of egg freezing cycles performed each year, look at the numbers, they skyrocketed, nearly quadrupling from 2015 to 2022. Egg freezing, as I said, it's not quick, it's not easy, but our next guest says it was all worth it for her future. Shania Bopa went viral for posting about her decision to freeze her eggs at just 25 years old. The video has gained almost 2 million views and opened up a discussion in the comments about being proactive with knowing your fertility in your 20s. People commented, mixed reactions. Some saying, I literally love this for you. Some ask, why are you doing this at 25? Shania answered, and she is willing to answer much more in an effort to educate people about egg freezing and her decision. Please welcome Shania Bopa to this conversation. All right. Here's the deal. You got a lot going on. In January, you complete your PhD.
Yes.
So you are busy, finding your way in this crazy life journey. And you decided to freeze your eggs after your older sister, Anar, right? She works in medicine. She said something to you about this. What did she say that got the conversation going?
Over pumpkin pie.
Those are the best conversations.
I was scooping some ice cream, and she said, so, Shania, I know you have this beautiful plan for your career, but have you ever thought about family planning and how that is included in that grand career plan? And I said, nope. Absolutely not.
As what most 20-year-olds, like, no, I'm doing other things,
Exactly.
right? Family planning, why do I need to think about this?
Exactly.
What did she say that persuaded you to not just listen, but start to do research?
She's known me my whole life that I wanted to be a mother. And I want to be a mom, and I want to have 3 kids. And she said, if you want this dream to come true, knowledge of self and learning about your own fertility is so critical.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because, I mean, you were being very honest with yourself. You're like, I want kids. You even have the specific number that you want. But this is not the time in your life that you want them. So you did your research, and you started to explore the process of egg freezing. And you said this was more physically draining than you anticipated. What did you initially think before you started the procedure?
I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. No idea. We don't talk about it.
People don't. I said it before, and I've been a journalist for 30 million years. And I always felt throw around egg freezing. Very cavalier, like, oh, just freeze your eggs. First of all, the cost, it's not cheap. How much did it cost about?
$15,000. But I would not have done it if my insurance didn't cover 80% of my medication.
So you were amongst the lucky, your insurance covered some of it,
yes.
Which more companies are doing. Because this is what people don't realize. When you freeze your eggs, you are going through IVF. The only difference is you are not fertilizing the egg and putting it back in your body. But everything that I went through to conceive Moses, you went through to freeze her eggs. People don't realize that. Coming up out of the break, we're going to break down the full process of freezing eggs after the break. Welcome back. Today we're having an out loud conversation about fertility, answering some of your biggest questions. And by the way, 26-year-old Shania is back with us. She went viral for freezing her eggs in her 20s. And joining us now is board-certified OB-GYN and infertility specialist based right here in New York City at Mount Sinai. Dr. Lucky Sekhon has pulled back the curtain on reproductive health, giving her social media followers a look into the process and debunking the myths. She's the author of The Lucky Egg, a guide to fertility preservation, and underwent IVF herself to become a mom to 4-year-old Gemma. Congratulations. Oh, my God. Welcome, Dr. Lucky, to our conversation. I am curious, first of all, Dr. Lucky, why do you think Shania's story went viral? Because the notion of freezing eggs is not a new conversation. but hers hit home for some reason.
I think it's because you did it at such a young age.
Is 20s considered young?
I think when egg freezing first became a thing, a lot of women viewed it as a last resort. And now it's really, the script is being flipped.
Right.
It's more of a proactive step. People are coming to me in their 20s. It doesn't matter if they're partnered or single. They're doing it for themselves.
Right.
And it's very empowering. Whereas before, it almost came from a place of defeat. And
Yeah,
feeling,
no, that's exactly. My
Exactly.
very first segment on freezing eggs, I was in local news in Chicago. And I remember in the commercial break, the gentleman who was doing the segment, he's like, "You should freeze your eggs." I was like, "Sir, I don't know you." But he was like, "Ma'am, you're getting up there in the number." I was like, "Oh my God."
Stigma and judgment.
There was so much stigma and
now
judgment.
people are having these conversations.
On TV shows
and-
like this in front of
Exactly.
audiences, which I love. Okay.
I love to see it.
I promise the audiences because I've never seen someone walk people through, whether you're interested or not, because I see some of you like, Tamron, I don't want a kid, don't show me this. But I think it is very fascinating to go through the process.
Right.
So the first thing is you start with hormone shots.
Yes, let's talk about the shots.
I have
So-
PTSD.
I know.
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they can come in these handheld like pens or really, it sounds scary, but they're actually really tiny, thin needles. And what you're doing is you're injecting hormones that are designed to try to mature as many of the eggs that we can. A lot of people don't realize this. You have millions of eggs, right? You're born with millions
You're
of
born.
eggs. And at any given time point, you only have a small subset that are at the surface that we see on ultrasound, and those are the ones we're trying to capture. So you're taking these shots for only 8 to 10 days. A lot of people think it's for months. It's only for about 8 to 10 days. And we're trying to get all of them to grow. And we're also having you take shots that are designed to prevent you from releasing those eggs. We want to trap them, grow them, and we're monitoring your progress by having you come in for maybe 5 or 6 visits early in the morning.
Because we have here, these are 2 ultrasounds. We're going to show you one without drugs.
Right.
And then you're going to explain what we're seeing here.
Yes, on the left-hand side, that is how your ovaries normally look on ultrasound. Those little bubbles of fluid each
The
contain one egg.
unmedicated here. This
Right.
is what it normally looks
And
like.
normally your brain sends a signal each month and causes one of those to get bigger and release an egg. That's called ovulating, right? But when you take these meds, you're trying to get that picture on the right. You're trying to get all of them to grow because guess what? At the end of every cycle, those eggs that came to the surface, they get thrown out. So you either use them or lose them.
Right. So this is what happens when you start your hormone shots. Then
Right.
doctors monitor your body
Yes.
to see how many eggs are developing with blood tests and ultrasound. I would go at 5 a.m. in the morning because they didn't want people to know I was secretly trying to get pregnant. They like smuggled me into the place. You go in.
I was 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Yeah.
I probably passed you. So you go through in the morning. They
Yes.
check your blood.
We
do they
get
check?
same-day results.
Same
We're
day.
checking your estrogen levels. We're also figuring out, do we need to add or cut back the medication?
Because the medicine flows. It's not just a one size
Right.
fits all. So depending on what your body needs.
Right.
Next, you get what's called the trigger shot.
And let me tell you, it is triggering because we tell patients this is the most time-sensitive shot you're going to take. It is taken 36 hours before the next step, which we're going to talk about, the egg retrieval. And it's the final step in maturing the eggs. And you have to mix. A lot of times you have to mix the fluid into a powder. And people get nervous because it's time-sensitive. But
And you
there's-
do this at home.
you do this at home, but there's a lot of support and instructions that are given. And then
Everyone gasped at home. What did you think this was happening?
Yes.
They're like, at
Yes.
home? But this is demystifying. This happens at
Yes.
home. In your case, were you alone?
Thankfully, I had a support system. I
Good.
had my siblings around to help.
Okay. All right.
That's
But
great.
some people are really doing this all by
Yep.
themselves at home and measuring. So you can imagine how nerve-wracking.
you learn a lot very quickly.
You learn a lot. So
in the
you
process.
mix your
Yep. And then 36 hours later, you're coming into the clinic for a very minor procedure.
it's called the egg
The egg retrieval. Exactly. It takes only about 10 to 15 minutes, and you are put to sleep with IV sedation, so you don't feel anything, you don't remember anything. And I want to illustrate how it actually works, because a lot of people are saying, is this a surgery? There are no incisions on your abdomen. I'm going to show you.
And a lot of people didn't know you're under anesthesia
Yes.
to retrieve these. So
And
now
a lot of people, when they think about where the ovaries are, they see these diagrams, but in reality, they actually sit low down by the vaginal canal here. And so what we do is the ultrasound, and there's a needle attached, and it goes into each bubble of fluid, and we drain each bubble of fluid.
This is not my body, by the way. This is a mock-up of,
That's how we get the eggs out. And that's why they're so easy to access, and it's very low risk, and it's very quick.
We actually have a video of the real procedure.
So you can see that needle piercing each bubble, and look how it's draining that bubble of fluid slowly.
See that?
Right. I did 21 of these on the weekend, by the way.
You did 21? And then that's
really fast.
actually freezing
Right.
the egg.
So we hand the tubes of fluid that we took from the bubbles off to someone named an embryologist.
Yeah.
And these are specialists in the lab. And they're the ones actually handling the eggs, making sure they're mature, and then freezing them.
I remember in my process, we were there and they were in the room and they're like, do we have it? Do we have it?
Yeah.
It's like 6 people having to sign off and you're waiting there. I won't show you how, but you're waiting there. And
yeah. And then they take the eggs and then they freeze them. They flash freeze them by putting them into minus 196 degrees Celsius liquid nitrogen. And then they're stored in these tanks. That's where your eggs are stored.
And here's the deal. With all of that, there's no guarantee that the egg quality is what will be enough to be fertilized.
Right, right. A lot of people don't realize that human reproduction is inefficient, right? When you ovulate 1 egg every month, there's no guarantee that it's going to fertilize with sperm and grow into an embryo that's healthy and implants. And that inefficiency doesn't magically go away because you froze your eggs. So it's important to freeze a certain number to gauge, okay, how many will survive the thaw? Typically, it's like 90 to 95%. And then maybe 70 to 80% will actually fertilize successfully. Perhaps half of those will turn into embryos. And even in your 20s,
number keeps creeping down even with this intervention.
And don't hate me, but your eggs aren't perfect. Even in your 20s, 20 to 25% of the embryos coming from your eggs can have typos or errors that limit their reproductive potential.
I remember they're looking and said this one we can't for different reasons, different things show up. So at the end of the day, though, the number of women, particularly in their 30s and 20s, it's skyrocketing.
Yes, a lot of people are freezing their eggs, and we're seeing a trend towards doing it at a younger age, and therefore we're seeing more success.
Wow.
Right? A lot of women who are doing this in their 20s, they are going to be successful because their egg quality tends to be really high.
Shania's like, yay! Okay, last question. Shania, for you, so you have your eggs, they are frozen, your PhD in January, does that set up a whole nother conversation of when?
10 years.
10 years. So in 10 years, you plan to explore this option. I think it's fantastic and empowering that you shared it with people. Dr. Lucky, thank you. First time I've ever seen that on TV done. Thank you so much.